Hey guys, my name is Angela Martin, and I'll be giving a presentation on instructional teaching methods, this one being about problem-based learning, or PBL for short. Problem-based learning is a learner-centered approach that challenges learners to conduct research, integrate theory and practice, and apply knowledge and skills to develop a solution to a defined problem. It was developed 30 years ago at McMaster University in Canada, and it was used by medical facility on medical students. And this was due to the ineffective and inhumane way teachers were preparing their students due to the new technology and medical information and the changing demands of future practice. Instructional method uses complex real-life problems for learners to collaborate on as groups. And problem-based learning can help students with critical thinking skills, problem-solving abilities, and communication skills. Some characteristics of problem-based learning is that it's critical that the teaching uses a selection of ill-structured problems and a tutor who guides the students or the group through learning process and then conducts a debriefing at the end of the learning experience. Problem-based learning can help students use experimental learning organized around the investigation of messy real-world problems to find, evaluate, and become continual learners. This teaching method can be used in a lab or design classes to simply using it to start a single discussion in the classroom. Problem-based learning falls under three closely related teaching techniques: case studies, role plays, and simulations. Problem-based learning has 7 cycles or 7 steps to come up with a resolution for the problem that was given. The first one is to explore the problem, and the second one is assessing the existing knowledge. Then you determine what else that the group needs to know, then conduct the research and study, which is similar to using case studies, and then you share the knowledge with the group, and then you apply the knowledge to resolve the problem. And then the reason why you want a debriefing is to evaluate the problem-solving process. Problem-based learning, using the 3 domains of learning, there's 3 different types. There's cognitive, affective, and psychomotor. The cognitive domain is known as the thinking domain. It involves acquisition of information and addresses the development of the learner's intellectual abilities, understanding, and thinking processes. There's 6 levels of the cognitive domain, those being knowledge, comprehension, application, analysis, synthesis, and evaluation. Which, if you think about those, they kind of are similar to the steps or the cycle of problem-based learning. The affective domain is known as the feeling domain, and it involves an increasing internalization or commitment to feelings expressed as emotions. The affective domain includes emotional and social development goals. Psychomotor domain is known as the skills domain, and it acquires fine and gross motor abilities with neuromuscular coordination to carry out physical movement. On the right there is another cycle or image of the problem-based learning process, which is exploring the problem, ideas, knowledge, and then figuring out the learning issues, and then taking a course of action. I put this picture in here because it reminded me of the 3 domains of learning. Some examples for that is the cognitive domain is when you must analyze, think, and read about the information that was given to you or the problem that was given. The affective domain, an example of that would be the group must internalize others' thoughts or the thoughts that were given and learn how to effectively deal with the other's thoughts. So working well with each other. Psychomotor domain is after the group comes up with a solution for the given problem, they have to take a course of action to solve that problem. So they are using motor skills. Some pros and cons of problem-based learning. I would say there's more pros than there are cons in my opinion, but I'll start with the cons, and that's the fact that it breaks constraints of traditional teaching. So the reason for that is not all teachers like to use problem-based learning due to the fact that when standardized testing comes along, they don't know how to work on their own rather than as a group. Some of the problems that are given can be too complex for everyone involved in the group. And like I said, it causes issues for students when taking standardized tests. And it can become a time-consuming assessment for the teachers. So they have to be there from the beginning to the end. They have to give the problem, and they have to be able to take notes throughout the entire time to know how they are using their knowledge and putting the knowledge to resolve the real world problem. And then they have to go over it and give a debriefing of how well they did in that assignment. So that's some cons, but the pros of problem-based learning is that it helps students learn how to work in groups and engage in conversation. It uses critical thinking and analysis and collaborative skills. Working with groups, you have to know how to collaborate and give your opinion and your knowledge. It can also help students manage projects and hold leadership roles in the future and in the classroom. It helps apply course content to real-world problems or real-world examples. So one day these students will go out into the real world and need to use their basic knowledge or their knowledge that was given to solve those real-world problems. And it also uses oral and written communication and research of information. So in the future, if they need to give a presentation on assignment that was given to them, this can help them for that. Problem-based learning in health education can be used very frequently. As we all know, we use it as a clinical aspect, but it can be used for patients, medical staff, and medical and healthcare students in the community. So patients use problem-based learning to any certain health conditions. So a way we can teach our patients is by giving them a real-life problem that could happen with their certain health condition and figure out whether or not it constitutes for an emergency visit or just a normal sick day for that condition. If we give these patients the correct teaching, we have to give them a real problem that may arise with their condition and ask them how they would react to that problem. And if they are unsure of how to react, then we debrief and we show them the correct way to go on with that health condition. Medical staff or employees of a hospital uses problem-based learning for any type of training or codes that could be called within the hospital. So CPR training is a good example for all employees or medical staff. We give the staff a real-based problem that can require quick action. So it teaches the staff to take interdisciplinary action, and it helps implement changes that can be used for certain situations that take place in the hospital. It gives staff a real medical problem that could arise and can help them practice on how they will react when a real medical problem arises. So code blues, code reds, anything like that. We basically see medical and healthcare students using problem-based learning more than most people because we use it as a clinical rotation or theory classes for nursing, and medical residents most likely for surgical rounds or any type of clinical rounds. The teachers give groups a real life problem that they may encounter in the medical field, and they grade the students on how they analyze and produce a solution for the patient's condition, because it could concern for quick action or it can concern for prolonging life. Either or, the problem is what they need to work around as a group. And debriefing is a very common thing in the medical field after a situation happens, especially in the ER. I know when I work in the ER that there's always a debriefing after a really hard trauma that hits everyone, and just how we worked as a team to get those problems solved.